All right, y'all. It is time to shine. It is time to shine. We are back yet again for another very special edition of the Run the Jewelz Show and podcast series. I'm your host, Julian Smartrimple here, King Jules, ready to be locked and loaded for another episode of the Run the Jewelz podcast show. Shout out to all of our listeners that are listening and tuning in for today's episode, whether you're tuning in via LinkedIn, whether you're tuning in via Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, or even if you're on the Wisdom app with us tonight, you all. Thank you again for taking the time out to hear the jewels of wisdom that my guest and myself are going to be sharing for today's episode. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe and follow us on all podcast listening platforms at the Run the Jewelz podcast via any podcast or music streaming platform that you catch your favorite artist or podcast on. You can see and listen to episodes that we've released from the vaults all the way from season 1. Now we are in season 4, you all. And so you can track with us and see all the jewels of wisdom that we've been able to drop over the last 3 seasons. But if this is your first time joining us, you have been inducted to be a smart jewel. You are a smart jewel with us today. But just know that the RTJ Lifestyle Show was created to spread inspiration to young professionals and millennial entrepreneurs who want to learn wisdom on how to shine brighter in their careers or their businesses. And so shout out to all of our listeners, our smart jewels out there. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor or a partner on the RTJ podcast show, you can fill out the link that we are putting in the comment section below on our live stream to see if you have what it takes and have our team sift through your interest to be a podcast sponsor on our international lifestyle show. And so we appreciate all of our podcast sponsors for season 4, you all. We could not have made this show a success without you. And thanks again for all that you do to help us elevate the podcast to a whole nother level this season. But those are all of my updates and also all of my beginning housekeeping rules. If you have any questions for my very special guests, feel free to also at any time pull them into the comment section, or if you're listening on Wisdom, you can just come onto the stage and ask any questions that you have for my very special guests. Don't be shy. No question is too outrageous or erroneous. We are all learning at different levels, including myself. And so feel free to come on to the platform and ask any questions or concerns that you may have regarding the subject that we are diving into, which goes by how to crush debt using personal finance hacks. We're going to be talking about how to crush debt, which is one of the biggest keys in main 3 jewels of our show: personal development, financial freedom, and also health and wellness. But you're going to be learning from my very special guest how to crush debt using personal finance hacks. And so I'm about to get ready to bring on my very special guest. I met this queen, matter of fact, just through myself and our team doing some research on IG. And she definitely has her own platform, her own business, and her own service in her own right, and is doing a lot of dynamic work in the financial education space. And also she's, of course, going to be talking about her journey and how she is crushing debt and has crushed debt by using personal financial hacks and also strategies. And so you definitely want to share this content with someone that you know needs to have more financial education now more than ever, or even if it's you that want to be able to learn some financial hacks and strategies to be able to shine bright for the rest of this season. And so definitely stay tuned for some of the jewels that my special guest, Miss Georgie-Ann, is going to be dropping this evening. And so let me introduce you to my very special guest, Miss Georgie-Ann. Georgie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on the show to share like what I know and just some of the resources that I've used to get out of debt and just kind of get my finances back on track.
Absolutely. We appreciate you, Queen, and rocking with us for today's episode. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Georgie-Ann, for those who may not know you, but they definitely need to know you after today. Tell us about where you were originally born, where you're from, and also where you're tracking with us today for today's episode, and why is this an important subject for you to talk to us about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was originally born and raised in Jamaica, the island. And I moved to the United States when I was about 7 years old, and I've been in New York for the majority of that time. I moved to Georgia and Jersey for a little bit, but New York is where I say I'm from. And I've grown up in like the Bronx and Long Island, so it's I have like a lot of diverse experiences around money, around different communities, and yeah, so why I'm really passionate about like finances and like kind of what do I do. So my job is I'm a business development strategist. So what that means is that I help folks start as well as scale their businesses. And I've been really passionate about that from a very young age. Growing up in these different communities, I saw a lot of business owners that had really great business models, business ideas, but they weren't integrating into technology or properly managing their finances or just being strategic overall, not because they didn't want to, but because they felt they were under resourced. And so I would like to hack. I love to hack different resources. And, we're going to talk about hacks today. So I really developed the passion of saying, okay, these are the resources we have. How can we maximize those to get to the end goal, the bigger result, versus waiting until we hit this amount or waiting for things that oftentimes never came. And doing that in like a personal way for myself, family, friends, developed in doing that mainly for businesses and business owners. And so that's what I do day to day under my company, GSD Solutions. I love to blog. I love to write, talk. I do a bunch of YouTube content as well. And I am a mom of two. I'm an author, but we'll get into a lot of those things. So I literally do a lot of different things, but it all goes back to the core of I like to learn something, unpack it, figure out other ways to do the thing, and then teach it and share that experience, share those hacks, tips, tricks, best practices with other people. So that's kind of like my purpose and like what I do in all the work that I touch upon.
I love it. I love it. And big up to Jamaica. We definitely got to represent for all of the Caribbean and West Indian natives. My family, Georgie-Ann, is by way of Trinidad, but we all got love for Jamaica. We got family in Jamaica and Kingston. But definitely big up to all of the West Indians and also those who are from the Caribbean that are rocking with us. But we are here locked and loaded for another episode. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Miss Georgie-Ann on how to crush debt using personal finance hacks, you all. And she's going to be giving you some keys and some jewels that you all can help your financial education thrive in this season now more than ever. And so if you have any questions at any time, don't feel shy and don't feel that you can't ask any question. Myself and Georgie-Ann will do as well as we can to answer any questions. If you're on the Wisdom app tracking with us, feel free to come on the stage at any time and ask any questions that you are pondering on financial hacks for debt freedom, especially. But back to you, Georgie-Ann. Like, talk to us. How did you even start your financial debt journey? I know you do conferences on this. I know you also are a subject matter expert, but how did you even get along that track to even want to learn about financial freedom or financial debt elimination?
Yeah. So I think it starts with actually just wanting to never get into debt. And I'll explain that by when I was like in high school and middle school or like right before college. So mainly high school and right before college, I heard of people taking out loans and how loans would hold them back and the burden of loans. So I made a decision in high school. I'm not paying for college. Like there's so many different, like I knew that scholarships were available, financial aid, and work study. There were just all these different things. And I'm like, well, based on my family status, my family didn't have a lot of money. I had a bunch of different siblings. And I'm just like, if I could not pay for college, I'm not going to pay for it because I know that whether it's YouTube or social media, back then, it wasn't that many years ago, but like 10 years ago, is when I graduated high school. I'm like, between YouTube and Google, like I knew how to research stuff and figure out the answer or go and learn things in person or just, hack my way through it. And so I'm just like, if I have to go and get debt to go to college, I'm not going, right? And so I made a very strong decision when I got acceptances from big colleges and, big fancy colleges, and they weren't covering my full tuition. I chose to go to community college, right? So that was like the beginning of really thinking through the fact that I know that my family doesn't have the income to, at the time, to afford me going full time, dorming and all that stuff at a college, as well as I didn't want to get into any debt. Like, I just heard so many horror stories around debt. I was like, I want no parts of that. Alongside that, I also had my son. So I was a teen mom, and I had my son when I was in 12th grade. So I'm just like, I have to really be strategic around how I spend money, save money, make money, and to take care of both of us. And so that was like kind of where I made that critical decision. I don't want to go into debt. So what other ways can I do this? I went to community college for 2 years with scholarships and financial aid. It was completely free. Then I did the same thing with after transitioning from community college to a 4-year university. Same exact thing. Work study. What else? Yeah, work study. I would do like a bunch of different like side hustle gigs, got scholarships, and just figured out and made sure that it was free no matter what I did. And from there, I was just like, if I could do this here, where else can I do this? And so I just would be very strategic around not taking out like loans and credit cards. And also, I didn't really understand the credit system in those earlier days. So you could call it like luck through ignorance. So I just was just like, I don't need a big credit line, or I don't want to get into debt. Like, debt was just like this huge thing that I just did not want any parts of. Fast forward a couple years, making very I'll call them strategic. Some people will call them cheap. Strategic, cheap decisions to say, how can I spend the money that I have or save my money more strategically. And then I kind of fell off that path a little bit after I got married, and just, I was just like, I'm an adult now. I have to take out loans and debt and car loans and all these different things. And I got buried in debt. And I'm just like, whoa, 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 what's happening here? And that's when I really took a look at the financial system even deeper. I'm like, okay, I don't know much about credit because I didn't need to use it before, but now I have to learn to understand it. Why is my credit score horrible? Why is something that costs X amount, and then if you look at the interest and the principal, because of your credit score, you're paying you're paying double or triple for the actual thing because of the position you're in. So I'm just like, whoa, I didn't know this was the other side of it. I want no parts of this either. Like, I want no parts of this stuff. It's unfair. It's, disrespectful to people, right? You're struggling. And then these businesses or these companies, these banks take advantage of people by saying, hey, you want this $10 product? No problem. I'll give it to you. Take out this loan for $10, but guess what? You're going to pay me back $100. But don't worry, it's going to just be like $5 a month for like 2 years or whatever the math comes out to. So don't worry, you're only paying $5 at a time, but you don't really calculate in that moment. Or even if you're paying $2 at a time, you're thinking, oh, wow, I get to get that thing that I wanted, and not looking at the repercussions, the negatives that come back from it. So I really dove into understanding like personal finance, budgeting a lot better over like the last 2 years. So like I would keep a tight budget, I would say. But over the last 2 years, I really dove into like, how do I get rid of this debt? How do I make sure that my credit is strong? How do I make sure that I'm in a solid position to be able to make fair decisions for how I wanted to run my life, as well as run my businesses that I would start? Because that lack of having that clarity around personal finance was putting not only myself, but so many people around me that I knew into a hole. I'm like, if I could learn this stuff, right? My passion is learning stuff, unpacking it and figuring it all the way out, and then teaching it back to people. I'm like, if I could learn this, imagine how many people I could impact by sharing the information that I've learned, right? I've already impacted so many in like the business world. What could I do with the personal finance world? So I'll pause there with that answer.
Yeah, no, it's really about, like you said, Georgie-Ann, making a decision to do something different from what everyone else is doing. You said, which is what I hear as a theme for a lot of the financial freedom seekers that we talk to on the show, is that you made sacrifices early on, and especially with you having your daughter early on, you knew that you had to make sacrifices in order to make sure y'all's finances and also your stability was on point, and it was also on a solid foundation. And so, like, talk to us about like how have you built up your foundation, which the main parts of finance that we always talk about are emergency savings. We talk about, of course, having any type of passive or active income coming in, and then also making sure that you keep your expenses or your overhead low, and so you can pay off debt faster. And so, like, how did you get your foundation in order to be able to get out of debt at a faster pace?
Yeah, so some of the things that I did in the foundational part, and I'll talk about like the journey that I started, the specific journey, the stronger journey that I started around 2 years ago. It was a friend sat down with me. So we sat down and we did a call, and I made this spreadsheet of like, okay, this is how much I'm spending in this area on these things. And then we decided to look at it like, what can we cut? Like, so, and I'll explain. One of the examples was my phone bill. So at that point, I had a iPhone, and like I think there was like maybe 150 or $200 left to pay to fully own the phone. I'm like, okay, I could pay that. But the monthly plan, I think it was like 120, or it was just like this, like, I feel like it was too much money for just one phone account. Like, it's just one plan, but because they're including like the price of the phone and
Right.
insurance, you're on one of these big name brands, they're adding in all these other things into it. And so one of the things that we did there was saying, are there other ways to have your phone and not have to pay this crazy amount for the phone plan? And if we're looking back on timing, 2 years ago was the early part of the pandemic. And I've worked from home the majority of my adult career. Like, I think there's like been 1 year I didn't really work from home. But I'm like, I work from home, so I'm on Wi-Fi at all times. So I don't really need like unlimited data. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere pre-pandemic, and now it's like you cannot go anywhere at all. Like, you don't need unlimited data. And then, I'm on Wi-Fi most of the time, and it's like I'm calling and text. Most plans have call and text, and it's about like $150 left to pay for the phone. So I went ahead, and that's almost the amount that I'm paying monthly for the phone bill. So I went ahead and paid off the phone in full. So now I own my phone, and I can now transfer it to a different company. And I transferred it to a company called Tello, and I'm pretty sure no one has heard of Tello, or very few of you have heard of Tello. But if you research, prepaid phone plans, right? I've had, Tello, and I think I did Net 10 at 1.2. And these are prepaid phone plans. And what it is just you pay like a monthly fee. I believe my plan was $25 a month, unlimited calling, unlimited text. And I had like 5 or 3 gigabytes of data. And that sounds terrible, if you're outside a lot, but if it's in the middle of a pandemic, going from 120 a month to $25 a month was a dramatic difference. And there was no big difference in my cell phone connection. I could still talk to people, video, my phone was still connected. I paid the $25 at the start of the month, had service throughout the month, and it automatically renewed. So I cut that bill in, how, whatever the percentages, can't do the math right now, but I could significantly cut, like 80% significantly cut down how much I was paying per month on my cell phone bill. So that was one huge expense saved. So now that savings that I have, right, that I am now able to spend that $95 that I was spending every month on the phone, I now could spend that in somewhere else. And so I looked at all the other things. Was there any debt that I had, debt collection agencies or overdue bills, calling these places, negotiating, saying, hey, what can we do about this, right? A lot of people are very scared, and I know that I was very scared at one point. Like, I owe these people money. I shouldn't have made that purchase, or I shouldn't have got that thing. I don't even need it. I don't even use it. I wasn't thinking straight, et cetera, et cetera. But calling these companies, you can work out a deal, and I didn't even know that. I didn't even know you could negotiate with these folks. And so I remember there was another thing that I had. It was like, I think it was like it was like $500 that ended up getting to like a debt collector because I was trying to dispute it. Long story short, it went back and forth for way too long. And then they just decided to put it to a debt collector. And so I called the debt collector, and they're like, hey, yeah, you could settle it for like, I think it was like $300. And so it's less than the original amount, but you're able to ask for like that discount. Let's see where we can meet halfway. And I didn't even know that was possible, to remove those collections or like create like a payment plan or getting a settlement, right? So just being really strategic of like looking at the problem and saying, how can we create solutions and think outside of the box to get the same quality of life or a similar quality of life, but living within my means until I forever staying and living within my means. And like growing up, in an immigrant family, Like my mom and my family was very, I wouldn't say frugal, but more strategic in the decisions that they made of like what we wore, the things that we did. And so while other folks got like addictions to like name brands and stuff like that, I never had that, you know. I was always about like quality of something. And when I was young, I was just like, oh, I want these things. I want Jordans. I want all the fly stuff. But as I got older, I saw the value in not being obsessed with that. You know, do I have nice things? Absolutely. But am I obsessed and feel like the need to sacrifice my personal finances in order to get those nice things? Absolutely not. So having those people around me that did want to support or just put these mindset things in, instill these mindset things into me and from an early age really, really helped. And then, you know, having that strategy, call it my friend, and then making the tough decisions to let go, right? Even having like, you know, Sprint first, right? That's a name brand, like a brand name that people recognize, to like Tello, right? Who's gonna say, oh yeah, I'm not calling you because you have Tello? Like that's weird. Like, so you know, just really making conscious decisions around where I spent my money, how I spent my money, and not just spending on something just cause, but really like what do I actually need versus like what's a nice to have, what's a want.
Yeah, that's a major jewel right there that, again, Georgie-Ann is dropping for you all. She is giving you tons of hacks already with Tello. She's telling you about how to cut your overhead spending. And so for those who are listening on Wisdom, or even if you're watching us on the live stream, she's giving you her blueprint to financial freedom and also financial success. And so follow the jewels and pay attention to the jewels. But if you have any questions, we're about to go into honoring our VIP sponsor. But right when we come back, if you have any questions for Georgie-Ann, feel free to come to the stage and also in the comment section and ask any questions. But each and every episode, we do honor our sponsors that we have partnered with for season 4, and any affiliate community partners or business partners that we also have partnered with. And so take a look with myself and Georgie-Ann to see who our VIP sponsor is for today's episode, you all. And if you're interested in partnering or sponsoring with us, just click the link that's in the comment section that we are putting in right now. But let's take a look at our sponsor for today's episode. So our VIP sponsor for today's episode comes from none other than Orgain Organic Protein. Orgain Organic Protein is one of our VIP sponsors that literally we partner with. I even use their product. If you're a health and wellness guru, or if you're trying to improve your health, they have plant-based organic pea and also natural protein. You can see the link that we're putting in the comment section right now to use the discount code SMART, SMART, JEWELZ. That's SMART Jewels with the Z at checkout in order to receive free 30% off discount code with our listeners who are subscribing to the RTJ podcast show. And so shout out again to Orgain Organic Protein and all of their wellness and health products that you can look on their site to purchase. But shout out to Orgain Organic Protein. But back to you, Georgie-Ann. We definitely wanted to highlight our VIP sponsor for today's episode. But we want to dive a little bit deeper. Like, talk to us about, like, what were some of the initial oppositions that you faced when you were originally trying to crush the debt and also trying to step out, whether it was on faith, whether it was just on just wanting to test out what you were able to accomplish, or even what you were able to overcome with the obstacles with your finances? What were some of your hurdles earlier on when you were trying to crush debt?
Yeah, I would definitely say one of the hurdles that I experienced was like around what it meant to have debt, because I felt like for so long I was really trying to be strategic around not having debt or experiencing debt or having um like this financial burden above me. And so when it actually happened, right, so pre-college, I was like, I'm not touching debt. I want no loans. I don't want to be a part of this. And then about midway through college, there were like opportunities presented that I thought, taking on a loan would help, allow me to move forward faster or pivot. And so I, looked at it as like an investment. And then I just kind of, a lot started happening really, really fast, not paying attention, making quick decisions. I had another child and I was just like not really paying attention as closely as I was or being as strategic as I was. And so it's just like, I'm like heads down and I look up, I'm like, what the hell just happened? And so, I think coming to terms with like now having debt when I was really, really so strong about not having it, like I felt like, oh man, I messed up. Like, how did I get here? Does that mean I'm like a bad person or like, so I started suffering from what they call like financial anxiety. So I'd get really, really anxious around looking at my things like my bank account, my credit score, and it would work in two ways. So there were times where it would like, I would get obsessed with looking at it. Like I'm looking at my credit score 3, 4, 5 times a day. Like I'm looking at my bank account like all day. I'm just like, what's happening? And like nothing's happening. It's just like, you're addicted because you're just like, I need to go up 1 point. Like what's happening now? What's happening now? And on the other end of the spectrum was I would go weeks, months, days without looking at my account. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's not looking great. I made that auto payment. It's negative. It's like it's there. Credit score in the 400s. It ain't moving. Like I would refuse to look at it or do anything about it. 'Cause I just felt like there's nothing I could do here. Like I just was giving up. So we're just like, I would swing from opposite ends of the spectrum like daily. And I had to now kind of figure out how to get into the middle of it, where it's just like I'm checking it at a positive, healthy rate that makes me that I am now able to make strong decisions to support the growth of my income, support the growth of my savings, support the growth of my credit score going up, but not too much or too little where it's just like I'm afraid of it, I'm annoyed by it, I'm just like I don't know what's happening. So I think one of those biggest hurdles was just accepting that, like, not because I had debt or like my finances weren't good, that I was a bad person, right? Like I was just, I was so hard on myself, like how do I dare try to help business owners or other people be more productive, get more done, be strategic with their business, but here I am like not doing great in the area of finances. So I had to like recognize like why I wasn't doing great and then make a conscious decision to make better choices and really focus on it in a healthy way.
Yeah, no, that's some excellent jewels for those listeners. I know I even went through the same thing, Georgie-Ann, because I followed actually originally Dave Ramsey's baby steps to receive financial freedom. And a lot of times they were telling us, for the teachers that were teaching my class, that you could still be teaching others as you're getting out of debt. But in my mind, I'm like you, logically thinking like, who am I to be telling people how to get out of debt when I haven't even achieved it myself as like a landmark or a ceiling for my own self? And so for those listening, you still can teach others as you're going through your process. Just make sure you're keeping integrity and good character when you are showing others the way. And so like Georgie-Ann, like talk to us about some of the hacks. I know you're someone that teaches a lot of hacks in conferences and workshops, and even in speaking sessions I've seen that you've been on the trail with. Like, what are some foundational financial hacks that someone can start today, especially millennials or Gen Zers that are listening, in order to take the step forward to get out of debt?
Yeah. So I guess the first few hacks I'll share come in the form of like planning, right? Definitely, whether it's by yourself or with a friend or family member, create your budget, right? And you may not know, you're like, oh, I don't even know what my budget should look like. This is the place that you start. You start by looking at your bank statements, right? If you have one, two, three bank accounts plus a credit card, look at those things, and it's going to be a little tedious. I'll say slot out maybe like an hour to three to do it. It's gonna feel like scratching your nails on a chalkboard. You're not gonna like it. Like, do not expect to like it. Try to set up an environment that helps you like it. I've heard people like, oh, I lit a candle and I was listening to music, or I made like a party of it. Whatever you need to do to feel good, or like give yourself a treat after, whatever. It's not gonna feel good. And you're gonna like be embarrassed. You're gonna look at like, why did I spend? You're gonna calculate. And you're like, oh my god, I really spent this much money on yogurt or lunch or etc. So you have the sheet, right? A spreadsheet. You could use Excel or Google Sheets, and you want to put in how much you're spending on different things. You could categorize things together. So it's like if you're doing like the movies and going to a show, like a Broadway show, like those could all be categorized as like entertainment, right? You're going to Instacart, BJ's, you're ordering food. All of that could be counted as like home cooked food. And I would say have a second line that's called like eating out. So even if you order food in or you go to a fast food restaurant, so you're just knowing, okay, in January, I spent this much money in all these different categories, February, May, etc. March, how'd I get to me? January, February, March, etc. Right? So just categorize and looking at your reports from your bank statement. So in your bank account, for almost every account, you can download your transactions, and that usually comes already in like a spreadsheet form. And sometimes they even have like a subcategory for you. So banks are getting super smart. So it's not as hard as it used to be. When I first started doing this, and I didn't realize like you could download it as Excel. I would literally print out my statements, or when I have my statements coming in person, highlight each row of each thing, put it in my calculator, then put it into my spreadsheet. It's a lot easier than that now. So definitely do that. Create your budget, or like figure out how much you're spending in each area per month, and then figure out how much you're making per month. And you may not see it because sometimes based on your like when you get paid, and if you have like side hustles or overlapping income or savings, etc., you may not realize that you're living at like a cash flow deficit. And what that means is that you're putting out more money than you're getting in every month. And because of the timing of when the money is coming in, or like the shifts are happening, you may not feel it or recognize. You're like, oh yeah, I'm good. I have $500 today, and then next bill is not until like 2 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. So you really want to know, like, am I truly spending more money every month, or am I making more money every month? And you have to figure out a way to see it visually, so you could then determine what to cut or what to cut back on, or if you have time and energy, getting another like side hustle, another job, another income stream to support you with making that additional income that you want to make, right? You want to make sure that you are increasing your income, so that way if your income is 5,000, you shouldn't be spending more than like $3,500 a month. Like, that is also honestly a stretch, but you want to make sure that you are living below your means, so that we have that wiggle room, you have that extra coming in. So that would be the first hack. Get your budget in order. The second thing, now, once you know where you're spending money, I started mentioning this a little bit, start looking for additional ways to either cut back on your spending, or increasing your income. How much can I be making per month? Is there room in your life to make more money? Can you ask for a raise at your job? Can you take on more clients? Like, how can you increase that income? And now I want to, I'll pause there for a little bit, but then I could share some more hacks on, some apps and some other tools that you actually use to grow your finances, grow your credit mainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely budgeting 101 is what we call it, even with our platform that we use. Do you do more electronic like apps for your budget? Let's say like they have Every Dollar, they have Mint. or do you suggest people use, like you were mentioning, the good old spreadsheets? Like, which one do you recommend?
I would say starting with the spreadsheet, because what happens when you automate it too soon is that you become a little detached from it. Like I feel like for me and a lot of people that I know and what I've seen work is that when you shock your system into really looking at it, no, I need you to see that you're overspending in these areas and feel the pain. I need you to feel the pain physically, that this is not okay. And that's how you're gonna really make a change. Like an app could show you stuff and you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. Or like it may percentage wise it, or like the work is done for you. Sometimes you have, this when it comes to personal finances, you have to do that first part on your own. You have to do that hard work, and then down the line, once you're aware and you're clear like what it is about, it's like now ingrained in you, then you can automate it. Because if Mint goes out of business tomorrow, you know what to do to make it work for you. Not that's really unlikely that it'll happen, but it's real, right? So what happens when you don't have these resources, or you don't, tomorrow something happens and you can't afford Mint anymore, right? Or afford whatever tools that you're using, you have to know how to do it yourself.
That's real, and definitely starting with the basics. I know I learned on the spreadsheet too, but I always like to ask any financial speakers or guests that we have on the show, do they prefer the original Excel spreadsheets, or going into the apps that they're marketing to our generation of millennials and Gen Zers? And so, wisdom listeners, if you have any questions for my very special guest, Georgie-Ann, you can feel free to come to the stage, or even if you're in the comment section, feel free to list any questions you may have and we'll get to them. But I know I wanted to hear, even for your third and your fourth hacks or jewels, as we'll call them, even like, what are some of your suggestions on, even after you've done the budget, you've set the foundation of what you want to do with your finances, and then you're seeing your spending habits, like you mentioned, for about 3 to 6 months or whatever the case may be. Like, what are the next steps for crushing debt right after that?
Yeah, so once you see your spending habits, kind of what you have outstanding in which area, now you want to move around the money. If you're realizing that you're spending way more on entertainment than you are on paying off that debt, right? I think a lot of times we have, or especially like millennials, let's focus on or age group, like millennials, right? There are a handful of us that might have things like car loans or home loans, mortgages, etc. But I think the majority of us still are, especially like the lower end, still have like little things like, oh, that JCPenney credit card, or like that Victoria's Secret, like there's random little things that we might have gotten in like college, or paying off that like computer, or even our cell phones. I'll go back to the example of the cell phones. And we are paying things little by little, which is helpful, but in the long run, you end up wasting more money, because that interest will add up. Those fees will add up. So what you want to do is, I would suggest strategically saying, okay, what is like my lowest bill, or my lowest like thing that I could pay off, right? Pay it off in full. And so if you're shifting around the money, now it's okay, I don't need to be spending X amount on entertainment this month. I'm going to spend that money and just clear off that T-Mobile bill that's been outstanding. I'm going to clear off that old credit card that has been outstanding, that I've been paying $5-10 a month on. Let me just pay it off in full. So that will be my next step, to immediately, see what you could pay off in full, and create a strategy of making sure that you're paying off things in full until you get to the point where everything is paid off. And don't be afraid to make short-term sacrifices for long-term wins, right? I gave the example earlier of the cell phone bill, right? Going from 120 to $25. That doesn't seem lucrative. That doesn't seem fancy. That doesn't seem fun, but it wasn't a hard decision. It was a very smart decision that ended up saving me, over the course of a year, let's just round up, $95 a month, call it $100 a month. That's $1,200, right? Versus staying with the previous plan for what? Right? There's no huge reason, right? I made a short-term sacrifice. Now I have like another, fancy name brand company again, but now it's for a strategic reason, right? I needed more data. I needed more tools, right? But I could downsize for that short period of time. I think it was like for a year, year and a half. And then when I needed to upgrade, now everything's back in person. I do need unlimited data again. I got it unlimited data again. So I think it's important for us to figure out where we could cut and then focus in on getting rid of the smallest debts first, right? I would say the smallest debts first, because those small debts are the ones that are going to really annoy you in the better sense of the word, right? You have a $200 outstanding here, $500 outstanding there, clear those up. And then when you get to now, if you have a $13,000 loan, whether it's for like college or car, whatever it is, then you could say, okay, I'm going to save towards that, or I could put more down on a monthly basis, or better yet, putting a certain amount per month on the principal of the item, so that way you could pay it off in full faster, because now all of your spare change or your extra income is going to that one thing versus it being spread over 20 things. So get those small things tackled and off your plate immediately.
Yeah, that's a major jewel right there that you all are hearing, knocking out and literally encouraging yourself and motivating yourself. The jewels that Georgie-Ann is dropping, because a lot of the folks that we mentor and coach, whether it's through financial peace classes or even through one-on-one consultations, Georgie-Ann, they always are giving up early in the game because they're not able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so, like, talk to those listeners as we get ready to wind down shortly, Georgie-Ann. Like, what is the reason, like your why, in order to achieve like financial freedom? I know Dave talks about this. Even Susie Orman talks about this a lot, and a lot of other financial gurus. Like, you always have to start with what is your financial legacy, or what is your why for wanting to achieve financial freedom, or even retirement, so you can be able to retire and live debt free. So, like, what was your why originally, and how has even your daughter potentially seen your hustle and seen your grind?
Yeah, my why has definitely been like that freedom, right? I like having options, right? I like having to be able to make a choice. And not being financially free puts you in this like bucket of, here you have one, like there are no choices, here's what you got to go with. And I really don't like that. Like, I like, give me two, right? Let me pick which one I want to go to. I don't like things being set in default. And so like that was like my biggest why, right? Whether it's like, again, I mentioned earlier, like I'm not obsessed with like name brands or like fancy things, but I want to have the choice. Like, do I want the fancy thing today, or do I just want something generic that I could, like, I want to be able to make that choice versus being stuck with the generic thing because that's all I can afford. And so, that's what financial freedom meant to me: having choices, having options in how I want to live life, and the things that I want to do and the things that I don't want to do.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's so key right there, is knowing what the end game is before you even get to it, and be
Mhm.
able to stick to the plan. And then I know as we get ready to wind down shortly, Georgie-Ann, like, talk to us about what do you see are some of the initial things that millennials and Gen Zers can do in order to knock out debt faster? Would you say that, I know we talked to some other guests recently this season, should they put strategies in place to go and live with roommates? Should they go back to live with parents and stack? Should they sell their car, their possessions? Like, what are some financial debt hacks that you would suggest in recommending for millennials and Gen Zers to do today, like immediately?
Yeah, the first immediate thing is get your head out the clouds, right? What you see on social media is not real. And in the sense that it's not real, like it's for social media. Like that is the purpose of it. It's for show. And so I think a lot of millennials or younger folks, or just anybody's like compares their life to what they see on social media. You have to have that bag, you have to have that brand, you have to have that tool, you have to have that thing. And so being more strategic around the things that you want, and say, not committing to things just because you see other people with them, but say like, why do I want that bag, why do I want that thing? And if you truly want it for yourself because of what it means to you, creating a plan to get that thing, right? Whether it's saving towards it, whether it's not getting it now but getting it later instead, or there's different services now, but not just making impulse decision. I think is the biggest thing, right? So look at the impulse decisions that you've made so far and saying, okay, what's a want versus a need, and how can we pace ourselves within that, right? Delayed gratification is, I think, the thing that's going to save like the entire world, right? We all also used to getting things now, yesterday. These apps like ZipPay, Klarna. Oh yeah, you can get it right now, split it into 4, we charge you extra, et cetera, et cetera. And those are great. Yes, that allows for accessibility, but I also think people are abusing those things to not really put in the work. Like I said, do the spreadsheet first and then you get mint down the line, right? Learn the thing, delayed gratification, pace yourself. You'll get everything you want, but you will lose it a lot faster if you don't pace yourself.
Yeah, pacing is a long-term race. It's a marathon, as Nip said. We gotta not be getting all bogged down early in the race because we still gotta see it through. And so, for those who have been tracking with us, you all know how we always transition to a final jewel of wisdom that we allow our guests to leave for us each episode. We've heard Georgie-Ann talk about her financial journey and how she started off her race to financial freedom, how she made sacrifices early in her life for her family and for even her daughter, and even just to show others that it can be done. And so, Georgie-Ann, what would be a final jewel that you would want to leave with the audience who is listening or catching the replay this episode?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to say is, or to leave with folks, is that you may not always have everything that you want, but you'll have everything that you need. And moving from a position of like abundance, like I have everything that I need, allows you to really embrace delayed gratification, allows you to really pace yourself towards getting these goals, right? I had everything that I needed to get out of debt. The same way I had everything I needed to get into debt is the same way I had everything that I needed to get out of debt. And it is a process. And so if you acknowledge that it's a process, then when it's taking 6 months, it doesn't feel like an infinity, because you know that you're gonna get there. Like you have this abundance around you, you have this certainty that it's gonna happen, and you just have to pace yourself, right? You could get everything that you want, all the name brands, the fancy cars, all the things, but you just have to pace yourself and do it at an appropriate rate by acknowledging I have everything that I need to get me to that next step. I just have to be mindful of pacing myself and slowing down in order to get there.
Yeah, that's a major jewel right there. You all pace yourself. It's a long-term race. Again, as you heard Georgie-Ann say, we got to be able to run this race at our own pace, not get besides ourselves. But Georgie-Ann, where can people follow you if they want to stay plugged in and stay connected with you too? How can they stay tapped in with you?
Yeah, on all social media, I'm at GSD with Georgie, or my website is gsdwithgeorgie.com. So reach out to me there. Always happy to answer any questions or share my journey, as well as like on my YouTube channel. It's also GSD with Georgie, like everything. I share a lot of these tips, and we didn't get to talk about the specific apps that I've used, but I do have a 12-part series where I go over different apps that have helped me save up thousands of dollars, get me out of credit. Now my credit score is over 730. And it was like 400 and change, like 2 years ago. And so, how did I do that? What tools did I use? How did I pace myself? My budget tracker, all of that stuff is there. I have a template. And yeah, I really hope everyone out there is successful on this journey. And again, I'm gonna say it because I really want you to really believe this. You have to pace yourself. You're gonna get to where you're going. You're gonna get everything that you want. But if you try to rush through it too fast, you're going to lose it just as quickly as you got it. So pace yourself and you'll get there. So thank you so much, everyone.
That's so true right there. Definitely, like you have been dropping the jewels for those listeners, Georgie-Ann, that we all got to pace ourselves, even myself too. I've been debt-free since the end of 2020 or the middle of 2020. So shout out to all of those who are still staying in the race. But we definitely appreciate you rocking with us this evening, Georgie-Ann, to share the jewels of wisdom. But I want to say a quick prayer, a quick blessing over you, Georgie-Ann, to let you go along your journey. And again, thank you for those who have been listening, and definitely share and like this content that you heard Georgie-Ann dropping. If you've been blessed in any way, shape, or form from tonight's episode, feel free to sow a seed with us. There are 2 main ways. You can either Cash App us at $SMART, SMART. Jewelz, or you can click the link that's in the comment section to partner with us as a monthly Patreon, or even to sow a donation or a seed with us. No seed is too small or too large because you're sowing into good soil for the RTJ podcast. And so, Georgie-Ann, I'm going to say a quick prayer over you, Queen, and then let you enjoy the rest of your day. Father God, I just want to thank you for Georgie-Ann being able to come on the show and bless us with her wisdom and also her knowledge in the financial space, and then also just in being open and also being vulnerable with her journey and with her story from trying out different methods and strategies to achieve financial freedom. And we thank you for the light that is within her and also her community and her audience that she is called to serve. We thank you for her talents and gifts that you will continue to magnify into greater levels and also even new and international destinations. And we just thank you for her willingness to teach and to also educate others and have that heart to serve. We love you, Father God. I praise you and I honor you and pray that you will bless her ministry and her businesses tenfold and 100-fold and even 120-fold this season. And I love you. And it's in Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, Georgie-Ann, coming on and rocking with us this evening, Queen. You enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Right. Peace. All right, y'all. I'm gonna do some quick final jewels for thought. Shout out to, again, Georgie-Ann, who was here dropping a ton of jewels for us this evening, being able to share her knowledge and also share her education, you all. It's financial education season, whether you realize it or not out here. And so we all have to be financially educated so we can become financially debt free. And so take a look and see what are some of our services that we are offering for the rest of season 4, you all. Take a look with me. We are going to be at the Black Pod Festival next week. So shout out to, again, Black Pod Collective. You can see us in speaking on how to repurpose your podcast for creative marketing. And then we'll also be at the Points of Light conference in Orlando this July for a hybrid in-person and online conference. Points of Light is one of the biggest service organizations in the U.S. And so shout out to our team getting us plugged in and getting back on the conference trail. Also, if you're looking to reach new audiences, let us help you make your podcast and your show live stream that is more professional. The secret to your growth is hiding right in front of you. So let's talk. Visit www.smartjewelzenterprises.org. That's smartjewelzenterprises.org to see what are some of our podcast creation and podcast coaching services. Also, So stay tuned, you all. We are taking our show on the road. And so we are going to be traveling with our podcast show and vidcast series. And so we are on the move. We talked about this for our 200th episode We're literally coming back from El Salvador, New Orleans. We're going to Asia later on this season. And so we're taking the show global to interview entrepreneurs and young professionals that are able to share their jewels of wisdom with our international community. And so stay tracking with us for the Smart Travel Jewels launch for next season after season 4 finishes, you all. Thank you for continuing to support us along this journey. We have new merch. With that being said, that we just launched for our 200th episode accolade. And so definitely go and visit our website to go and purchase some of our merch, which we partnered with Fits for Kings and Queens, one of our apparel lines for Smart Jewelz Enterprises, who powers the RTJ show. And so shout out again to those who are making their dreams become a reality, because we have been on the move for the last 3 seasons, you all, making sure that we are putting our money where our mouth is and also allowing us to sow back into the podcast services through donations, through sponsorships that we've acquired with businesses along the way. And so shout out again to you, our Smart Jewel listeners, for being a part of our journey and also for being a part of our dynamic progress as we continue to move into international terrain for our podcast show and vidcast series. But those are all of my final jewels for thought. Visit us again at www.smartjewelzenterprises.org to get started on your podcast today, and to also literally partner with us as a sponsor or even as a potential affiliate partner for your episode, that you can have your business, excuse me, or your service literally launched and also highlighted at a sponsorship ad in our future podcast episodes. So thanks again to all the names and all the businesses that you see on the bottom of the screen that have been a part of our season 4 dynamic episode. Shout out to Orgain, Organic Protein, Champ Boxers, Everybody Eats ATL, Carolyn M, Keon R, Black Pod Festival, StreamYard, Urban Eden, and Get Games or Get Gone. We thank you all. We not have made this show a success without your undeniable support, and so thank you again. But we are on all podcast platforms. Stay tuned till next week so you can see who we're going to be bringing in for our next episode. Shine bright like the bright diamond jewel you've been created to be, and make sure that you take time to not let your light fade or not let your light dim, because you need to shine and not be afraid to shine. If you are a king or a queen, like Georgie-Ann, so even myself telling you tonight, you need to be able to share your wisdom and to not be afraid to share your light with others. And so those are all of my final jewels for thought. I'm King Jewel signing off. Until we meet again, stay hydrated, stay safe, stay blessed, and until we see you again, peace.